Hey everyone, and welcome back to another character bio. Today, or right now, we are looking at Mal's character, Cacillus, who is the Dark Templar, or Black Templar, sorry, Tech Marine. Um, so, I guess I already answered your first question for you, that I asked other people. But why don't you tell us exactly what a Tech Marine does, and what kind of skills you bring to the party?
Cacillus as a tech marine brings all the technical skills such as tech use that allows him to hack into computers, also modify guns, unjam things, and he also is able to improve cover and really provide a stronghold for the party to stand and fire behind. So he's a very support and logistics role for a marine, less focused on damage.
Okay. I'm gonna hit you a little bit with a blindside question because it pertains more to Tech Marines than other professions or classes that I have interviewed. So I guess one thing that's really unique about the Tech Marine is the ability to put in cybernetics and have them function really well. Can you kind of detail out like your servo arm for us a little bit, or maybe like some of the more advanced cybernetics that you'll be getting throughout the game, or like have you looked at them and kind of figured out like what you're gonna get next or anything like that?
Oh yeah, cybernetics are of course what make the tech priest unique. And I know that kind of goes that saying, but to clarify, in all games there's always a type of character called the gadgeteer. And the gadgeteer starts out weaker than everybody else by far. What they specialize in is building, and so basically by the end of the game, I should wind up one of the most powerful characters, just because I've acquired so much stuff for every kind of different situation. So right now, for example, I just start with the regular servo arm, which is still damn good. It for people who've played Deathwatch, it's a 75 strength, and it has a natural strength 2, which basically allows me to lift up a Rhino, which is a tank APC. So I can lift that up and repair it, or use it for cover. So that's just the starting stuff. Later on, I plan to get a servo harness, which has like a blowtorch on it. It has a flamethrower on it. It has two manipulator arms that can hold different weapons for me, and I can spend some of my actions to fire weapons twice, which kind of allows you to break the rules a little bit, just depending on how Hosen lets those rules get manipulated. So, but yeah, I mean, it's just a lot of variety. I can have multiple weapons readied. I can cut through walls, armor, improve cover for us. And of course, later on, I hope to really be the guy that uses auspexes, which is like radar, to see the enemy before they see us, allow us to set up in an optimum position, and then tackle the enemy. So we really just get the advantage almost every single fight. That's kind of what my guy does with his cybernetics.
Okay, cool. And when you're talking about stats for your servo arm, I actually plan to do some tutorials explaining basic rules and stuff like that. So if you're unfamiliar about what he is talking about, hopefully that gets covered and explained in my tutorial videos. So for the next question I'd like to ask is, what did Cacillus do, or what did he do before he was recruited into Deathwatch? What was his past experience?
Cacillus is an interesting scenario because, for one, he's in the Black Templar, but to back up a little bit, before he even joined the Space Marines, he actually was on a world that was conquered by the Black Templars, and it was a hive world. And he actually proved his might by fighting in gladiatorial rings. However, he's always a person that preferred to use his brains, and he actually joined the Mechanicus at one point, but was going to be executed for heresy among their ranks. He basically questioned some of their knowledge and took it to the next step. He modified things without the right rituals. He always loves to tinker and gadget around. Well, that's dangerous. So upon facing heresy from there, he knew he only stood one chance, and that was undergoing the initiation rites of the Black Templars. Well, the Black Templars, for any of you who've read them, know that they're very strict, and for example, their initiates will fight to the death with weaponry and armor in order just to be able to be chosen by the chapter masters, or the high marshals as they're called actually, in the world where they are able to recruit from. So upon threat of death, he leaves the Mechanicus, joins them, And the same kind of thing kind of happens to him there. He really doesn't learn his lesson per se that he shouldn't rock the boat. What I mean by this is the Black Templar are famed for their hate of psychers, and to him, he grew up with suspicion of psychers and of witches, and he does fear them because that's what the Imperium believes. You know that if you're around them, you'll get demon possessed or corrupted and tainted, and that means pretty much death by an inquisitor or a confessor who finds you and proves that, or doesn't prove it. They just light you on fire with a flamer if they're a zealot. So he pretty much went to the Black Templars, passed the initiation, used his fighting skills that he learned from the Hive World there, and because he had a Mechanicus background, they actually re-entered him into the Mechanicus for his Tech Marine training, and then came back as a full acquired Marine. Well, like I said, he didn't really learn from his first time. He rocked the boat, and again had started to question why the Black Templar didn't use librarians, and he actually developed some of his own cybernetic senses to be able to have Cynetians and to see the warp. And the only reason he got away with that was because he told his brothers it was to see the witches and to, kill them. But honestly, everyone kind of feels that it's only a matter of time before he becomes corrupted, and so he's being watched very carefully. So again, under threat of his Black Templar brethren probably killing him, he leaves and actually does well on a mission and applies to Deathwatch. And again, luckily, the Emperor is looking out for him or something. He gets accepted into the Deathwatch team. So he's traveled quite far to get here and has a lot of baggage and history.
That's very cool. Very cool. Okay, so just kind of building off of that up to this point. So what does he plan to get out of Deathwatch? It sounds like he's gonna stay with Deathwatch even after his term is over. Is he planning on trying to become a Forge Master or Watch Captain, or what does he hope to gain out of Deathwatch?
Well, like I said, he's a guy that likes to use his brain, and he's still kind of figuring all this out. His life has been so rushed, and he's had to fight for everything that he has, and he's just been pushed to the limit that he would kind of like to settle down, but he's been pushed to the point to where I think he might actually just be so successful at combat that he might try to become a captain, a watch captain, or eventually do specialist equipment for such as the Grey Knights. He would like to maintain their equipment. That would be the longest far-reaching goal he could probably have. But a Forge Master wouldn't be bad either. I mean, if that's what got handed to him and that's what the brothers needed.
Okay. So then, so let's switch over and ask about how your character feels about the other characters. So of course, this is all again, on the spot impressions. So first impressions of them. So let's just start with let's start with Diz's character, who is Marcus. So what does Cacillus think about Marcus so far?
Cacillus is, regardless of how his past has actually treated him, he's always gotten in trouble for expressing his open thoughts and how things should be approached. And for him to be leading in a Deathwatch as a Tech Marine is kind of definitely off the beaten path, especially when an Ultramarine is involved in what he's kind of heard about them. And so he, as you guys will probably see in the gameplay videos, he kind of second guesses himself around Diz, making sure that he lives up to the high standards of the Ultramarines. Again, they have such a high legend and lore that he really just wants to make sure he's not overlooking something. So he's actually kind of less of a tactician and holds himself back around Diz. And as far as Diz's character, though, and who Diz really is, he's not sure yet. But he wants to win his approval. He wants Diz to like him, so he wants a friend out of him. He thinks he is very courageous to rush out of the medical bay under such hurt and such recent activity that he's going to come join us without even a briefing.
Yeah. Okay. So what does Cacillus think about the Devastator in the party, which is Kyler's character, Shadris Odin?
Shadris always thinks of the things that Cacillus overlooks. Cacillus is probably a genius, according to the standards of the Imperium, but he doesn't think of everything. He's always like a first-dimensional person. Okay, what can we do? What's the standard tactics that we can use? And Shadris is excellent about always saying, well, we should ask this, or what about this element that you overthought? And so Cacillus really appreciates the presence of another like-minded tactician. So, and also he feels really bad about his gun that keeps jamming. He wishes he was there just to unjam that with a technical knock, but he's still working on the rituals for that talent.
Oh, we can always hunt down the tech priest or tech marine that's maintaining his gun, right?
Yeah, seriously, I'll be like, what are you doing? Are you part of chaos or?
Okay. So then let's wrap up with the last player. Then, what do you think about Sorrow's character, who is Dominic Sorrow in the game, who is the Dark Angel Librarian? What does Cacillus think about him so far?
Cacillus's first reaction is always to fight his instincts against a Psyker because of what he's been trained with the Imperium and what he's been trained with the Black Templar. He's fighting against two sides of brainwashing. Well, or conditioning, actually, to put it nicer, I guess, since it wasn't really like against his will. So he's very cautious and about the powers, but he's very curious at the same time. He wants to know the applications that Sorrow's character actually has in a fight and what he can do. But because Sorrow is not very outgoing or forthcoming with his knowledge, which, you know, of course he's a Dark Angel, but, I mean, Cacillus really doesn't know that much about Dark Angels. He's kind of stumped with him and doesn't really know a way to approach. So he kind of just tries to feel him out and present situations and see how Sorrow will solve them. But again, Sorrow doesn't really give him too much to go on, so it's a mixture of him fighting his instincts and just kind of waiting to see what he really does and see the true person. Is this person really a demon like he's heard from all of his Black Templars? Will he give in to a witch's wrath? Or is he actually a thinking, rational, you know, space marine, a brother in arms who will protect him with powers that he can't even fathom? That's how he feels.
Very cool. Okay, so that kind of that answers everything you know, I was curious about. Is there any additional information or anything else you want to add to your character? Perhaps a question that you had wanted me to ask, but I didn't?
Let me think for a second. Because, I mean, you pretty much covered background, what I think of everybody. You know what? You should have asked all of us what our greatest fear was, because as a Marine, we shall know no fear is a standard that needs to be tested, and all Marines face it. And, I mean, yeah, like, what is our character's greatest fears?
The Space Marines don't understand what fear is.
Not until they don't have the, not until they have the fearless talent, right?
I guess.
They do. In the Deathwatch book, it says they do understand fear, and they comprehend it just like any other man. They're just better conditioned to face it.
Yeah, I guess you do lose cohesion points, right?
Yeah. I mean, in the face of things that are beyond the comprehension of reality, you know, I mean, I would assume anyone, you know, belonging to our reality would be scared shitless.
Okay, then. So then what is your character's greatest fear?
My character's greatest fear is, I mean, it can be summed up with the unknown. I mean, everyone fears the unknown. I mean, that's what it boils down to. But more specifically, I think he fears running in fear and then losing his courage. I mean, let's just say like he faces like a greater daemon of some kind, or you know, some very threatening foe. Probably something from the warp, not like a Xenos, because of how Deathwatch is trained to fight them. But definitely something of the warp. He's afraid of actually his courage failing on him. He's afraid of his own failings, of his own shortcomings. That if he actually does break and run and can't can't confront his fears, that he's going to let everyone down and he's going to prove everyone right. That, you know, he isn't worthy of the Mechanicus or the Space Marines or anything. You know, I mean, it's all built upon him succeeding and, you know, being outrageously lucky so far. So yeah, he's afraid of that failure, and his first real big failure, I think.
Okay. Anything else you'd like to add?
No, that's it. This has been awesome, actually. I've been looking forward to doing this all day.
Cool. Well, it's nice having you here, and thanks for taking the time to do this.
Show thing, Master Hosen.
Alright, we'll see you guys, I guess on the board, because this is our final one. So, see you guys then.